My voice is not lagging.
No, your voice is clear.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. So should I start, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Okay. Uh, can you full screen the PPT?
It is full screen.
And no, actually, I think only slide is seen. It's not full screen.
Ma'am, at my end, it is slideshow. It is the full screen.
Mm,
And try to change the slide.
Is it okay?
Ma'am, no, slides are not changing.
Oh, but I'm changing from my end.
It is not visible. Okay. So good morning, friends and madam. Sorry for the delay. And today my topic of presentation is DNA replication in prokaryotes. So I'll be covering these subtopics, which you can see on the screen: model of DNA replication, molecular details of DNA replication in prokaryotes, replication of circular DNA, rolling circle replication of DNA. So the DNA replication in prokaryotes. The replica means copy and replication means copy of itself. DNA replication means DNA making copy of itself. Irrespective of prokaryote or eukaryote, replication of DNA is a crucial role in every living organism. So uh, there were models to explain the DNA replication. There were three different models proposed: conservative, semi-conservative, and dispersive. Now we can change the slide. Can you change the slide?
Aishwarya, madam.
Yes, Abhijit, I have changed it.
No,
Ma'am, I'm on the second slide. I can see the second slide here.
I can see only first slide.
Yes.
Aishwarya, make me host. Then I will see.
From beginning.
We can continue.
Okay. So I was talking about to explain the DNA replication, there were three different models proposed: conservative, semi-conservative, and dispersive. The semi-conservative model explained that the parental strand separate and new DNA will be synthesized. So the progeny DNA will have one parental and one newly synthesized strand. And this goes on when the replication cycle is repeated. Conservative model explains that the parental DNA separates, the new strand synthesizes, the parental DNA rearranges, so one DNA will be entirely parental and other will be entirely new. And in the dispersive model, the parental DNA is fragmented into pieces, and then those pieces will act as template and new DNA will be synthesized. These models was studied by us in earlier classes, so I will not go into detail, but which replication is more preferable and more accepted. So for that proof, there was one experiment proposed by Messelson and Stahl. So can you change the slide, ma'am? Yes. As you can see in the slide, Messelson and Stahl experiment, uh, we are studying DNA replication in prokaryote. So they use the model organism as E. coli. They use E. coli for the experiment. E. coli culture was grown in the minimal medium containing basic sources, and in that there was one uh, thing was created, that is nitrogen content in the medium was NH4Cl, in which the nitrogen was in its isotope form, which is in N15, having one extra neutron, which makes it more heavier or more denser than the normal, which is N14. When the bacteria grown in the media, the nitrogen will be used for making all the nitrogen containing compounds. In DNA, there are nitrogen bases which will have now the media containing the N15, which is the isotope of the nitrogen, which is slightly heavier. So the DNA will contain all the nitrogen containing bases which will have the N15 isotope basis. So it should be gradually heavier. So now you can see in the slide there is first nitrogen containing medium which is in a pink in color. uh, the then these bacteria are allowed to grow in several generations. The bacteria were collected, lysed and applied to the density gradient centrifuge. Now the in this type of centrifuge, density gradient centrifuge, there there is a gradient of the particular compound in a setup. So which means when we load the sample and allow to centrifuge, wherever the density is same in the sample matches with the density of the gradient, it will show us in the form of a band. As you can see in the diagram, the photograph of a DNA band, there is a banding of the match the density. So you can see there is a test tube containing the pink band, which is at the bottom, which means it is having the isotope form of the N15, which is a heavier. So it is at the bottom. There is a peak. There is a densitometric scan. You can see there is a peak on N15 DNA, which is heavier one because bacteria was provided with N15 nitrogen source. Peak will tell us in the peak will tell us the DNA is present, and the height will tell us the amount of DNA is present. So that was of the culture medium that we have created. Now the next step is they allowed the bacteria to grow in N14 medium, which is the normal nitrogen containing medium. Again, bacteria is allowed to grow in several generations. After one replication cycle, bacteria was collected, lysed and centrifuged. There was show peak between N15 and N14, which indicates one strand that N15 and N14 is present. N15 parental and new N14, which shows the intermediate density. As you can see in the densitometric scan, there is a in between peak on the N15 and N14. As the replication proceeds, we can see two bands after two cycles. Half DNA is of intermediate density and half of the entire N14 density. So now when the DNA is cycle, as the replication goes to the third cycle, we can see the new DNA more, and so the peak on the N14 is more and the peak on the intermediate is shorter. In the last peak, you can see the intermediate peak is a little lower and the N14 peak is little higher. So what does this experiment conclude? There was three model proposed, and according to that model, ma'am, can you change the next slide? No, back. Yes, okay, okay. There was three model proposed. According to the conservative model, the entire DNA should be either parental or new. So there should be not any intermediate density. We can see when the replication cycle 1, there is a intermediate density. So the conservative model was proved to be wrong. And according to the dispersive model, after first generation, the half of the DNA and half parental DNA, this model was correct with the first generation. After, because of the dispersive model, DNA gets fragmented. There is only one type of DNA, so there should be only one band, and it should move towards the N14, which is not in this case. We can see a little bit intermediate, and N14 is also there at the peak. So this model was also been proved to be wrong. So as the remain was the semi-conservative model, which was proposed by the Watson and Crick. So the experiment proved that the semi-conservative model of the replication is more correct. Yeah, yes, ma'am, you can change the slide. After proving that the DNA replication is semi-conservative, then comes the actual process of DNA replication. Entire process of replication requires many enzymes. Because DNA replication is all about the chemical reaction, all biochemical reactions require enzymes to catalyze. There are many enzymes, but the first we going to focus is the DNA polymerase. DNA polymerase uh, performs a polymerization reaction. These are synthesizing enzymes. So the DNA polymerase is a DNA synthesizing enzyme. DNA polymerase can replicate DNA only in 3' to 5' direction. DNA polymerase cannot initiate DNA synthesis on its own. Means there is no de novo synthesis. Uh, there is no de novo synthesis. It can only add nucleotide to 3' hydroxyl end of the pre-existing strand. Yes. And so, okay. So now we are studying this in the E. coli. So we are studying this prokaryotic replication in E. coli. So here the E. coli we will be talking about the E. coli. So E. coli has 5 DNA polymerase. Functionally, DNA polymerase 1 and 3 are the polymerase necessary for the replication. DNA polymerase 3 is exclusive for the replication. DNA polymerase 1, 2, 4, and 5 involved in the DNA repair. Look at this chart. DNA polymerase has two types of activity. Like you can see, the DNA polymerase 1 has two types of exonuclease activity. No other DNA polymerase has the exonuclease two types of exonuclease activity. Only DNA polymerase 1 has. Uh, DNA polymerase has two types of activity: polymerization and exonuclease activity. So polymerase activities can add nucleotide for the replication, and exonuclease activity can remove nucleotides. This is required for repair and proofreading mechanism. Uh, both the both are very important, and it should and we will be discussing when we will going to the slide of actual replication. For now, DNA polymerase was talking about the DNA polymerase. So DNA polymerase was first polymerizing enzyme to be discovered by the Arthur Kornberg. So it is also known as Kornberg enzyme. DNA polymerase 1 is encoded by a single gene, which is poly A, which consists of only one polypeptide. Entire enzyme was made up of one polypeptide, the DNA polymerase 1. The DNA polymerase 3 has many subunits. Uh, the catalytic core of the enzyme made up of 3 polypeptide, which is alpha, epsilon, and theta, and complex, which makes the core enzyme of performing polymerization reaction. Complete DNA polymerase 3 enzyme contain additional 6 different polypeptide that makes the hollow enzyme. Hollow enzyme means the whole complete enzyme, which will be not restricted to the for the replication only. It will work for the different metabolic works also. So, ma'am, can you change the slide? We will be discussing about the polymerization and the polymerase activity and exonuclease activity. So yes, uh, after this we will be going to the actual replication. For just startup, we are taking a look to the polymerase activity and exonuclease activity. So you can see in this slide, there is come to the polymerase activity slide uh, picture. There is a template strand and there is a growing strand. The template strand is in the 3' to 5' direction. So the new strand will be synthesized obviously in 5' to 3' direction. Pre-existing strand is a primer which has a 3' end open. New nucleotide is substrate for the DNA polymerase 3. So DNA polymerase 3 can add new nucleotides on the 3' end. So you can see here there is a C cytosine which is coming and attaching to the guanine. When the nucleotide is coming and attaching, the nucleotide will be in the triphosphate form. So the DNA polymerase will act upon it and breaks the phosphate. Pyrophosphate means two phosphate bonds, and to uh, attaches and forms a polypeptide, single phosphate bond, which is the backbone of the DNA, which is a phosphodiester bond. As we know, the phosphodiester bond makes the backbone of the DNA, which is negatively charged. So the DNA is negatively charged. Uh, in this process, the two phosphates are released, pyrophosphate ions. So this was about the polymerase reaction. Talking about the exonuclease activity, we can see in the diagram of the exonuclease activity, there is a 3' to 5' exonuclease activity and the 5' to 3' exonuclease activity. The upper strand is the okay, 3' to 5' activity. We know the polymerization activity is from 5' to 3' direction. Now, exonuclease means to remove the nucleotide from the ends. So if the wrong nucleotide is added, it has to be removed. So DNA polymerase 3 has 3' to 5' exonuclease activity, which will remove the nucleotides from 3' to 5' direction, opposite to the direction of the polymerization. We can see the upper strand, which is 3' to 5', which is in the direction of the polymerization, and lower strand is 5' to 3'. But now the DNA sorry, 3' to 5' exonuclease will adds the sorry, if the wrong nucleotide is added, it has to be removed. So DNA polymerase 3 has 3' to 5' exonuclease activity, which will remove the nucleotide from 3' to 5' end. So it will remove in the backspace manner. You can see in the 3' to 5' activity, which is opposite from the polymerization uh, side. Polymerization activity is going to the right side, and the exonuclease activity is in the opposite side, which is like a backspace. Okay, so 5' to 3' exonuclease activity, which is in which the template strand is 5' to 3'. You can see. So we have RNA primer and Okazaki fragment. Primer has to be removed from the 5' end because 3' end is already there. So DNA polymerase will add nucleotide here. But it cannot remove primer from the 5' end because it has only 3' to 5' exonuclease activity. So for that, DNA polymerase 1 is needed, which has 5' to 3' exonuclease activity, which means it can remove nucleotide from the 5' end towards 3' end in the direction of the polymerization. It is like deleting the sequence. Like the major difference between two is the 3' and 5' exonuclease activity is opposite to the direction of the polymerization, and the 5' to 3' exonuclease activity is in the within like in the direction of the polymerization. So that was the basic difference. Now, can you change the slide? Can you change the slide?
Yes, I've changed it.
Okay, okay. Now moving to our third third aspect, which is molecular detail of the DNA replication in prokaryote. Now this diagram explains it very well, that initiation of replication. Initiator protein. Now we are going to learn actually the actual part of the replication, which is a replication in prokaryote, which is initiator protein. Now you can see in the diagram, initiator protein recognizes the replication origin sequence. There is a replication origin sequence and the parent DNA helix. So the replication origin sequence is recognized by the initiator proteins and it gets bind over there. In the next step, the helicase enzyme, DNA helicase enzymes get attached to there. And what is the function of the DNA helicase is to unwind or denaturate the strand. When the DNA helicase unwind the DNA, it forms two separate DNA strands known as a replication bubble. This replication bubble made up of two replication forks. Like you can see in the fourth diagram, there is a movement of the helicase enzyme. It has been cut the say nitrogen bases, and you can see the replication bubble. There are two replication forks. uh, DNA helicase functions in unwinding the DNA. Okay, then helicase denaturate the helicase and bind to the DNA primer to form the primosome. Okay, now the first step is helicase denaturate and binds to the DNA primase to form a primosome. So what is happening is DNA helicase plus primase is getting attached and forming a primosome. The function of the primase is to synthesize short DNA primers. Primers are required to make pre-existing strand DNA polymerase cannot initiate synthesis because it requires a pre-existing sequence. So the primase synthesis RNA primer, which is extended as DNA chain by DNA polymerase. As you can see, the RNA primer is getting attached in the last diagram, and the red color DNA polymerase is getting synthesized because of the enzyme DNA polymerase. Okay, you can change the slide. Okay. Now, the events occurring in the single replication fork of the E. coli chromosome. So, in first, we can see there is a Y-shaped replication fork moving in one direction. Uh, there is from down you can see there is a leading strand, and above there is lagging strand. So leading strand will be synthesized continuously, and lagging strand will be synthesized in the fragments, which is also known as Okazaki fragment by the name itself, scientist Okazaki. Leading strand, the red color is the new DNA synthesized by the DNA polymerase 3, and which is in the 3' to 5' direction. Lower strand, you can see the blue color DNA, which is in 3' to 5' direction. So the new DNA is synthesized from 5' to 3' direction by the DNA polymerase 3. But it gets difficult when when there is synthesis from 3' to 5' because it has the ability to synthesize from 5' to 3'. DNA polymerase can synthesize DNA only in the 5' to 3' direction. So we have DNA helicase, yellow color at the center of the fork, you can see. DNA helicase open DNA untwists, denatures. When the two strand open, it has to be stabilized. Okay, now when the two strands are open, when the DNA helicase attaches and denaturates, there are two openings of the strand, and there are the chances of that two strand getting looped further. So in order to stabilize those fragments, we require the SSB, which is the single stranded DNA binding protein. When two strand open, it has to be stabilized. So it is done by the SSB. So on leading strand, DNA replication is continuous, and on lagging strand, DNA replication is discontinuous. So we can say it is a semi-discontinuous type of replication. Now when the DNA polymerase 3 synthesize, it has in the fragment. So this primer has to be removed. Now we can see below, and new DNA has to be synthesized in between also because of the primer or RNA primer. Okay, so on the lagging strand, there are fragments of DNA where the primer get attached. You can see the purple one, polymerase 3, which is moved ahead, and the new primer is getting attached, and the sequences move much ahead. So the primer will get attached, and can you change the slide? Okay, so polymerase 3 dissociation. Uh, Now when the DNA polymerase 3 synthesizes DNA, it is in the fragment. So this primer has to be removed and new DNA has to be synthesized in between, because the primer are RNA primer. The function is done by another polymerase, DNA polymerase 1. As DNA polymerase 3 moves ahead, DNA polymerase 1 attaches and removes the primer using 5' to 3' exonuclease activity, and new DNA will be synthesized. The problem is it can make DNA but cannot seal the DNA. That gap has to be filled by another enzyme, which is DNA ligase. As you can see in the diagram, the sequence gets moved ahead, and the new primers get attached, and the replication goes on. But DNA polymerase 3 move actually it cannot seal it. The site remained open, the 5' and 3', and still lacks the phosphodiester bond. So the DNA ligase, what is does actually is adds the phosphodiester bond between those fragments, which makes which is like sealing the DNA completely, and there is no gaps between the complete DNA strand. Yes. Ma'am, you can change the slide. Okay. So these are the enzymes. You can see these were the enzymes used. Uh, these are the component required for the DNA replication. Initiator protein binds the origin and separates strand from DNA to initiate replication. A DNA helicase unwinds and breaks the bonds DNA at the replication fork. Single stranded binding protein attaches single stranded DNA and prevents secondary structures. Secondary structures mean uh, coiling of the two fragments which are going to synthesize. So it provides the stability. DNA gyrase, we'll be talking in the further slides. DNA primase synthesizes a short RNA primers to provide 3' hydroxyl group for the attachment of the DNA nucleotides. DNA polymerase 3 elongates a new nucleotide from the 3' end. DNA polymerase 1 removes primer and replaces with the DNA. DNA ligase joins Okazaki fragments by sealing breaks in the sugar phosphate backbone of newly synthesized DNA by adding the phosphodiester by sealing those Okazaki fragments, which makes it complete. Uh, so here we complete with the replication part. Now we'll be going to the bidirectional replication of the circular DNA. So ma'am, can you change the slide? Okay. Bidirectional replication of the circular DNA. Uh, Replication in prokaryote, the DNA in the prokaryote is single circular DNA, which is double helix. So when the DNA replicates, we can see a replication bubble in which there is two replication fork which moves in the opposite direction. There is a origin of replication from where the replication starts, and we can see over here that there are because it is circular. When the replication starts, there are two replication forks. From there will be the replication. So there are two forks. So from two sides there will be synthesis. So there is a bidirectional replication because the circular DNA is tightly packed. This is an important point because the circular DNA is tightly packed. Supercoil, if the supercoil are not removed, then it put pressure on the DNA and replication fork may not move ahead. Means it's like because it is tightly packed when the replication forks occur means replication is occur. There is a coiling at the backside of the circular DNA. So in order to avoid that coiling at the backside, away from the replication side, uh, there is an enzyme called topoisomerase. Topoisomerase is a family of enzyme which releases the supercoil in the DNA. Here basically the type 2 is used, the topoisomerase. In E. coli, DNA gyrase is a type 2 topoisomerase enzyme is one who removes the supercoil because it is a tight lip coil. It requires like the replication is very fast, like 50 rotations per second, which is like 3,000 rotations per minute. So the in E. coli DNA gyrase is the one who removes the supercoil. So we were discussing about DNA gyrase at the back slide. That is the enzyme which is required here to in order to remove the supercoil. Uh, here replication is same. Now the replication is same as we studied before. We discussed before. Two replication fork helicase will unwind the primer, will synthesize primer, and DNA polymerase will extend the DNA. And the two things get separated. But at the termination of the replication, you can see at the last when actually they get separated, there is still uh, like one strand remain unattached. That sealing is done again by the DNA ligase. Okay, and we can change the slide. Okay, rolling circle replication of DNA. Now, in certain viruses, during conjugation, rolling circle replication takes place. We studied sexual reproduction in bacteria. During conjugation, DNA transfer from donor to recipient by mechanism of rolling circle replication. This mechanism applicable for both single and double stranded DNA. How rolling circle mechanism takes place in the double stranded DNA, we will be seeing here. There is origin of replication. First step is endonuclease produces a nick. You can see in the first diagram there is a nick, means a break. Uh, that means the DNA has been cut, outer strand in cut over. So we have a 3' hydroxide and 5' phosphate, and now we have pre-existing strand. So 3' and DNA polymerase will start adding nucleotides. When it add, inner strand get act as template strand, means the outer strand, when there is a uh, addition of nucleotide, the inner strand will act as a template strand. In the process of adding these nucleotides, the inner strand gets rolled. Actually, it literally gets rolled. So that's why, as the name suggests, the rolling circle replication of the DNA. When the entire DNA rolled once 360, it will comes to the starting point. Now DNA will be cut here and sealed by DNA ligase. As we studied before, DNA ligase seals the end and makes it complete. If the DNA is single stranded, uh, okay, now in the last this diagram, ligase diagram, the rejoining of the nicked strand, there is a complete outer strand is synthesized by the adding nucleotide. That will be one strand, and the other inner template strand will be synthesized by the Okazaki fragments. As you can see, the red fragments at the last diagram, ssDNA synthesis of second strand, there will be a uh, lagging synthesis, means Okazaki fragments will makes the DNA fragment complete, and both the DNA will join. So that's how the double-stranded DNA circulation replication of the rolling circle replication of DNA takes place. If the DNA is single-stranded, there is a template strand. One of the mechanism is the single-stranded DNA. It synthesizes primarily and form double-stranded DNA. First, the entire mechanism repeats. Means it single stranded DNA has a template. One of the mechanism, like it will synthesize a two strand, and then it will do the same as I explained now. Uh, like which there are some viruses and bacteria which follow this method. Uh, I will conclude that uh, single and double stranded DNA is in some viruses is replicated, viruses and bacteria is replicated by rolling circle mechanism, and sometimes in conjugation also DNA is transferred from rolling circle mechanism, means yes, from the conjugation also, and in the bacteria uh, where there is attack of virus, and also in the viruses which are having single stranded DNA, irrespective of double stranded or single stranded DNA. And yes, ma'am, you can change the slide. Here are the references, and yes, thank you.
Who is next?
Ma'am, me,
Me, con.
Akanksha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Akanksha, you want me to share your PPT?
Ma'am, I have mailed you DNA replication.
Yeah, that means I have to share, right?
Yeah.
Who has not been able to join?
Is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am. So should I start?
Yes.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. So my topic is DNA replication in eukaryotics. Ma'am, next slide. So we are talking about DNA replication. So let us just study about what is DNA replication exactly. The mechanism which gives exact copies of genetic material a form are called as a DNA replication. Why DNA replication is necessary? Because it transfers genetic material from parents to daughter cell through cell replication. Now, the biochemistry and the molecular biology of DNA replication are similar in prokaryotic in eukaryotic, but there are some differences. Like one point I would like to say, DNA replication in prokaryotic takes place at single end and in bidirectional direction. But in eukaryotics, it takes it multiple ends and in bidirectional direction. So, however, an added of complication in eukaryote is that the DNA is distributed among many chromosomes rather than just one. So, as we know, DNA replication only takes place in S phase. So, S phase does not only start replicating; it requires some licensing factor. Now, next slide. So, to differentiate between prokaryotics and eukaryotic DNA replication, there are some points, extra points in eukaryotic. It is replicon. Now, what is replicon? The stretch of DNA from the origin of replication to form a two termini replication on each side is called as the replicon or a replicating unit. So the replicons are very cell specific and there are various origins of replication. You in replicons in eukaryotics are small and they work faster as compared to prokaryotic replicons. Why? Because in eukaryotic replicons are small, but they are very specific at from A point to B point only one replicon will work, and from C point to D point only another replicon will work. So they are very specific in their work, so it requires about 8 hours, and so that's why the replicon movement is faster in eukaryotics than in prokaryotics. Ma'am, next slide. Ma'am, next. Yeah. DNA replication start with a initiate by a replicators. So the why it is highlighted in eukaryote that we require replicator, because the replicator in eukaryotics are well defined rather than in prokaryotic. In yeast, the first replicators like in yeast Saccharomyces cerevisiae, replicators are about 100 base pair sequence, but and they are called as autonomously replicating sequence. The replicator are more complex in multicellular organisms are less well characterized. The initiator protein in eukaryotic is multi-subunit and it is known as origin recognition complex (ORC). Now, what does ORC does? The ORC binds to two different region of one and replicate and recruit some other protein at that position, so that that protein unwinds the DNA in a third region near the other. So the origin of replication is between the first two region and the third region. For correct duplication of chromosome, each origin of replication must be used only once in a cell cycle. Ma'am, next. So for initiation of ma'am, previous slide. So for the initiation of initiation of replication, there are two basic steps. One when the ORC binds, and other is when ORC recruits other protein. That is when it recruits ORC recruits other protein. It is called as the pre-replicative complex of pre-RC. Now, what is pre-RC? Where are they activated? Pre-RCs are activated in cell processes progresses from G1 to S, and then they initiate replication. Now, as I told earlier, S stage does not only start just replicating DNA replication, it requires some license. The license is made up of protein. So the protein which is called as is licensing factor. Now, the licensing, where the licensing factors are synthesized, how they move on and how they work. So licensing factors are synthesized only in G1 and then move to the nucleus, where they are first, as I told earlier, ORC binds and recruits the other protein over there. So the first protein which is recruited by ORC is the licensing factor. The other proteins are recruited by the time, and the entire complex remains untwisted and double-stranded DNA. At this point, after the work of the licensing factor, it deactivates it, or it is degenerated or exported to the nucleus depending on the organism. Ma'am, next slide. So these are the enzymes and proteins which are used in DNA replication in eukaryotics. First, it is earlier said that DNA helicase, single-stranded binding protein, topoisomerase, DNA ligase are similar as of prokaryotic, but there are some different enzymes that is called DNA polymerase alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and epsilon. Now, what does DNA polymerase alpha does? It is used for primary synthesis and repairing. DNA polymerase beta repairs the DNA. DNA polymerase gamma is also known as mitochondrial polymerase. What does it do? Mitochondrial DNA replication. DNA polymerase delta is used for lagging strand synthesis and epsilon for leading strand synthesis. The table is given for you. Ma'am, next slide. I will not go into the deep about DNA replication. I will just explain because it was previously explained by Abhijit. So the DNA replication start with the initiators, replication initiators. So the fork movement start, DNA starts to unwind, and DNA helicase works on it, and there is a formation of first Okazaki fragment, a second Okazaki fragment, and leading strand, lagging strand formation goes on, and there is a fork movement goes on continuously. Next slide. As we can see in third stage, the Okazaki fragment goes on continuing the unwinding of the DNA. Ma'am, next slide. So yeah. So after DNA replication in eukaryotics, so there is a one end removal of DNA in DNA replication. There is one end where at the end the DNA primers are removed at 5' end of a new DNA strand that leaves a single stranded parent DNA as overhang part. So due to this, there is a problem, that is chromosome length is shortened by each cell division. So to overcome this problem, there is a special mechanism. The mechanism is known as replicating ends of chromosome through telomerase. So the scientists Elizabeth and Carroll has shown that the enzyme called telomerase is used for this overhang to overcome this overhang part. But now, what does the telomerase do? Telomerase maintains the chromosome length by adding telomere repeats, and which serve as a template on previous DNA replication at each end of the DNA chromosome. Now, how does it works? When DNA telomerase act as a stage where a chromosome ends have been produced after primary removal with an overextending part. So the telomere work beyond that extending part. So telomerase enzyme is basically made of protein, both proteins and RNA. The end of where the RNA primer is removed, at that point the telomeres attach and get base pairs with the another sequences of the overhanging DNA strand. Now next, after when it base pairs, the telomerase catalyzes the addition of new nucleotide it keeps on base pairing, and slides itself. Now, next slide. Yeah, it keeps on it keeps on replicating and for with the new DNA strands. So the point it is here that when we have started from DNA replication, there is a overhang part at that point also, and after telomerase activity, there is also a overhang part. So why we think why there is a use of this telomerase activity, because after DNA replication, RNA removal keeps a chromosome length very short. So it is very short. So after telomerase activity, the DNA, the chromosome length increases. So we can remove the telomere and we can further go for cell division. So there is a difference before telomerase activity and after telomerase activity. So but the process can recur to so it is given here, but the process can recur to add more telomere repeats. In this way, the chromosome can lengthen by the addition of a number of telomere repeats. Now, the RNA act as a template for synthesizing the complementary telomere repeats of chromosome, which are telomerase. Its type of telomerase is basically known as reverse transcriptase enzyme. Uh, Reverse transcriptase enzymes are basically used in biological applications. In mammals, telomerase activity is only limited to immortal cells like stem cells, germline cells, or tumor cells. Then further, next slide. uh, as we can see the synthesis of telomeric DNA by polymerase. First, we can see the gap between the primary removal of First, we can see the overhang part of parental DNA. Then the telomeres is getting base paired with the sequences. They are getting more and more base paired, and then they are sliding off. Then another at the last part we can see there is a another overhang, but the length of the chromosome is increased rather than previous one. Ma'am, next slide. So, the another part in DNA replication of eukaryotic is assembling newly replicated DNA in nucleosome. Firstly, DNA, eukaryotic DNA is a complex with histones in nucleosome, which are the basic unit of chromosomes. There are 8 histones in core in the nucleosome. They are named as H2A, H2B, H3, and H4. Now, when DNA replicates, there is a doubling of this new histone proteins and assembly of nucleosomes. Now, the most histone synthesis occurs at S stage with DNA replication only. So, for replication to start the replication, there is one criteria that nucleosome first have to disassemble. Then immediate after passage of fork, replication fork, it immediately get assembled. First it disassemble, after the passage of fork, replication fork, it immediately get assembled. So this is the main criteria of assembling newly replicated DNA. For replication to proceed, nucleosome must first disassemble, then the replication fork passes, then a newly replicated DNA assembles in nucleosome almost immediately. Now, each parental histone core of nucleosome separates into H3, H4 tetramer, and other one is 2 copies of H2A, H2B, and H2A, H2B dimer. Now, next slide. Now, the H3 and H4 tetramer is transferred directly to the one of the 2 replicated DNA helicals immediately after passing the replication fork, and now it assembles. The remaining H2A and H2B dimers are released, adding the pool of newly synthesized H2A and H2B dimer. The pool of new H3 and H4 tetramer is also present, and one of these tetramers initiate nucleosome assembly on the other DNA double helix past the fork. The rest of the new nucleosomes are assembled by H2A, H2B dimer, which may be parental or new. Now, thus a new nucleosome will have either a parental or new H3H4 dimer. It can be a pair of parental, parental, parental new, or a new new. So, there is for assembly of this the assembly of nucleosome, there requires a helping agent. Then the name of the helping agent is histone chaperone protein that helps the nucleus to direct the process of nucleus assembly. Hence, I conclude here for DNA replication in eukaryotic, there are some add-on thing like telomerase activity and assembly of nucleosome assembly, which is really very important for the increasing the length of the chromosome. Thank you, ma'am. So this is the slide of the assembly of nucleosome. H3H4 dimers and H2H2 dimers, they are forming a new replicating parental parent or new type of formation. Ma'am, done.
At least clap for each other.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Then can you make me co-host? I will try to share. Then
Yes.
can you make me co-host?
You are going to share your PPT?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I will try.
Okay, you are co-host.
Today my topic is DNA recombination. So after today my topic is DNA recombination. DNA recombination, it is a basic step in which it is a process in which DNA is recombinant, and and in this and in this step the DNA they cross over, and some unit of DNA they cross over, and they are binded to homologous DNA in which many other DNA molecules are varies. Then next slide, please. DNA, it is a simple definition of DNA recombination. It is the production of new DNA molecules from two parental DNA. Parental DNA may be same DNA molecules or they may be different DNA molecules. Ma'am, next slide. There are many types of DNA recombination. Journal or homologous recombination, it occurs between DNA molecules of very similar sequence. Or second type of recombination is illegitimate or non-homologous recombination. It occurs in regions where no large scale sequence similarity can be apparent, or DNA recombination may not be large scale. Number third is site specific recombination. It occurs between particular short sequences. The sequence is about 12 to 24 base pairs present or otherwise dissimilar oriental molecules. Number four type of DNA recombination is replicative recombination, which generates a new copy of a segment DNA. Ma'am, next slide. So apart from many other models, there is the vastly accepted DNA recombination model is the holiday model. The holiday model is one of the model that explain events of recombination. While its basic features are generally accepted, number of models have been proposed that attempt to explain recombination either in special systems. But holiday model of recombination is vastly accepted because it gives very very detailed structure about how DNA recombination happens. It was proposed by Robin Holliday in mid 1960s. It is one of the models account for the preceding observation was formulated. The key feature of the holiday model are formation of duplex DNA, in which DNA strands, the two parental DNA strands, they come close to each other and they they form branches. It is called as holiday branches. It, we will see in the next slide, but it is some of the factors I am explaining how the DNA holiday has proposed this model. The creation of cross bridges, its migration along the two heteroduplex strands, term branch migration, the occurrence of mismatch repair. Ma'am, next slide. So this is the whole model of holidays. How he has explained the DNA recombination. In the first in the first step, there is recognition and alignment of homologous chromosome. In the first step, there is a recognition of the sequence which are going to recombinant. In this stage, in the first stage, two DNA double helices become precisely aligned so that no genetic material is added or deleted in either of the strand. In the second stage, one strand of each double helix breaks. Each broken strand then invades the opposite duplex helix and base pairs with the complementary nucleotides of the invaded helix. You can see, ma'am, can you zoom to first and second step? There is branching. Yes, ma'am. Sorry. There is branching in the second step. Each of those step process leave gaps that are sealed by DNA polymerase and DNA ligase, produce producing which is called a holiday intermediate. This is called as a holiday intermediate. In step number 3, these hybrid DNA molecules evident at this stage are called heteroduplexes. At this stage it is called heteroduplexes. In step number 4, the the branch migration occurs in this right side and forearm structure. And this structure, these two strands of the double-stranded DNA molecules do not have completely complementary sequences, but they have complementary sequence. That's why it is called as heteroduplexes. The two DNA double helices in this holiday intermediate can rotate, as it is seen in step number 5. They rotate, causing the branch point to move to right or left to each other. They rotate 180-degree. So as it is seen as the four branched pair, and this four-arm structure for the DNA strand is produced simply by pulling the four chromosome ends apart. Holiday intermediate structure have been demonstrated to be very stable it is said to be very stable and with no very few unpaired bases even in the region of this branch. This holiday intermediate is cut by the endonucleases in horizontal or vertical plane. In as we see in step number 6, ma'am, can you pull it down? So it there can be two ways. Either it can be cut in vertical plane or either it can be cut in horizontal plane. So when it is cut in horizontal plane, the resorted parental chromosome is seen as some of the chromosome is from the first yellows. You can see that yellow and blue and blue and yellow. These are these are produced newly produced and which are produced by horizontal horizontal cutting cleavage, and by vertical we can see it has and by vertical and by vertical cleavage we can see that there is there is very vast difference in the chromosome length, and so and the recombination is very vast. So the gapped helices are produced, and in step number 8, cleavage product gaps are sealed by enzyme activity by ligase, and they are also called as sliced duplicates. And in this way, the the whole DNA recombination happens in both eukaryotes and prokaryotes. Ma'am, can we go to next slide? So what is the importance of DNA recombination? So DNA, as we know that while meiosis, there is crossing over, there is formation of chiasmata, and there is there is there is a recombination. In that step we see the recombination in DNA. So recombination is important mechanism for repairing damaged DNA. Recombination involved in rearrangement of specific DNA sequences that alter the expression and function of some genes during development and different initiation. Ma'am, next slide. Recombination plays an important role in this process by allowing genes to be resorted into different combinations. Genetic recombination results in exchange of genes between paired homologous chromosomes during meiosis from the standpoint of evolution. However, it is also important to generate genetic diversity. So because of DNA recombination, there is genetic diversity as we seen in our diversity. Ma'am, thank you. It's all.
ऐश्वर्य मैडम अभी नेक्स्ट कौन है?
Ma'am, it's me, Gauri.
Hi Gauri, good morning.
Good morning.
Is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am. Um, is there some way that I can use a pointer or something?
ए नीचे देखना, तेरे पास एनोटेशन में रहेगा ना, वो एक टॉर्च जैसा है ना.
No. No, I can't see it anywhere.
नीचे रहता है एनोटेशंस में स्पॉटलाइट करके वो ऑप्शन है.
There is no annotations option in the first place.
एक कर्सर भी यूज कर सकती है ना.
Yeah, I can.
हाँ, शुरू कर.
Is my cursor like visible or how? I don't know.
यस.
Okay. Should I start?
यस प्लीज.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. Today, my topic will be dealing with transcription in prokaryotes. So, transcription is the process of synthesis of single-stranded RNA copy from a DNA segment. This segment, which is present in 3' to 5' direction, is called as the template strand, and the RNA copy is synthesized in like 5' to 3' direction. So this process takes place in 3 stages. Ma'am, can you go to the next slide? Yes. So this process takes place in 3 steps, that is initiation, elongation, and termination. Next slide. So bacterial gene which has to be transcribed is divided into 3 regions based on how it is getting transcribed. So the first region is promoter. It is a small sequence which is present in the upstream region, like here, and it interacts with the enzyme RNA polymerase. So the promoter defines the direction for transcription and dictates the enzyme about which is the DNA template strand and where to begin the transcription. So it basically orients the RNA polymerase to start transcribing at the beginning of the gene, as well as initiation of synthesis to occur at the same site. Then we have RNA coding sequence, which is basically the DNA sequence that has to be transcribed by the RNA polymerase into an RNA transcript. And in the end, we have terminator, which is the sequence that specifies where to stop the entire process. Next. So in E. coli, there are consensus sequences, which are bases found most frequently at each position. Previous slide, sorry. So a gene with its promoter is an independent unit and forms a gene-specific template strand. In E. coli, promoters have 2 consensus sequences which specify the process of initiation. A consensus sequence is basically a base which is found most frequently at each position. So
these are the bases TTGACA, which is present at the minus 35 upstream. That is, if this plus one which you can see, so 35 base pairs upstream of that is TTGACA, and minus 10 upstream, that is 10 base pairs upstream of this plus one, we have TATAAT. It was formerly called as the Pribnow box. Next slide. So for the process of initiation and the entire process, basically we require an enzyme called RNA polymerase. It is called holoenzyme. It is basically made up of RNA polymerase core enzyme and sigma factor polypeptide. This RNA polymerase core enzyme is also made up of 2 alpha, beta and beta dash polypeptides. The sigma factor ensures that the RNA polymerase binds stably onto the promoter. So this decreases the ability of the enzyme to non-specifically bind to DNA and establishes promoter-specific binding properties of the holoenzyme. This sigma factor is not required in the later stages of elongation and termination. The promoters differ in sequences, so RNA polymerase so the binding efficiency of the RNA polymerase varies, and therefore transcription initiation rates are also varied. So when we are trying to understand the mechanism of initiation, RNA polymerase holoenzyme, which you can see this in the diagram in blue, it binds first to the minus 35 region and then to the entire promoter region. At this time, the DNA is still in its standard double helix form, and so it is called as the closed promoter complex. This holoenzyme then starts untwisting the DNA at this minus 10 region, like this. So then it is called as open promoter complex. So sigma factor plays an important role in this process because it contacts the promoter at minus 35 and minus 10 regions. Once RNA polymerase binds at the minus 10 region, it is oriented properly to begin the transcription at the correct nucleotide of the gene. Next, please. So next step is elongation. During the transition from the process of initiation to elongation, the enzyme RNA polymerase becomes more compact. So it contacts less portion of the DNA. And once elongation is established, the RNA polymerase contacts a total of 40 base pairs of DNA, with the transcription bubble occupying like 25 base pairs approximately. So in this process, the RNA polymerase begins to move along the DNA, and after 8 to 9 nucleotides are polymerized, the sigma factor is released or it dissociates. Rest of the elongation can be done solo by the RNA polymerase core enzyme. So as core enzyme moves along, it untwists the DNA region as it moves along, and the region which is behind it again twists back to a double-stranded region. Within the untwisted region, 9 RNA nucleotides are base paired to the DNA in a temporary RNA-DNA hybrid. So the remaining new RNA which is formed, it exits the enzyme as a single strand. Next slide, please. So to regulate the process of transcription, there are 2 types of proteins: activators and repressors. So activators stimulate the process of transcription because they make it easier for RNA polymerase to bind or elongate to the RNA strand, and repressors inhibit transcription because they make it difficult for RNA polymerase to bind or elongate. Then RNA polymerase also does some proofreading activities like replacing incorrect nucleotides. So if there is an incorrect nucleotide which is inserted, uh, so then the RNA polymerase will go one step behind and it will replace that incorrect nucleotide with the correct one as a part of former step. So for that time being, it's like the synthesis reaction is reversed. Then it again continues with the normal process. And in the other one, in the other activity, it cleaves the incorrect sequences. That is, if there is any wrong nucleotides which have been put there, so it will, instead of removing them one by one, it goes behind a few steps and cleaves that entire region, and then it will again start the RNA synthesis in a forward reaction. Next, please. Termination is the last part of the transcription process in prokaryotes. So it signals the end of the process. In E. coli, there are two types of terminator sequences, type 1 and type 2. So in case of type 1 or row-dependent terminators, the core enzyme of RNA polymerase does the job of terminating the process. Whereas in type 2, or so called as row-dependent terminator, the protein row plays an important role in the transcription termination in case of some genes. Next, please. So first we will see about row independent terminator or type 1. It contains inverted repeat sequences like the ones denoted in pink, and they are like 16 to 20 base pairs upstream of the transcription termination point, and they are followed by 4 to 8 adenine thymine pairs like this. So RNA polymerase transcribes the terminator sequence as if it is a part of the RNA coding sequence. And later, when the RNA is formed, it forms a hairpin-like structure because of the inverted repeat arrangement. This causes the RNA polymerase to slow and then pause the catalysis of the RNA synthesis. At the end of the hairpin, there is a string of uracil nucleotides, which cause destabilizing between the new RNA chain and the DNA template strand. So this causes the RNA polymerase to finally dissociate from the template and the process of transcription terminates. Now, if there are any mutations which take place in the hairpin structure, then that can either partially or completely disrupt the process of termination. Next, please. Row-dependent termination or row-dependent terminator. So as I said earlier, the protein called as Rho plays an important role in this process. These terminator sequences are rich in cysteine and poor in guanine, and they do not form any hairpin structure. So the Rho protein, which you can see here in green, it binds to the cysteine-rich region and moves along the transcript till it reaches RNA polymerase. Where the newly synthesized RNA is being base paired with the DNA template. Now, Rho is basically a helicase enzyme. So it unwinds the helix which is formed between DNA and RNA template. For this process, ATP hydrolysis provides the energy. So the new RNA strand is released and the DNA double helix later on reforms. The RNA polymerase and Rho dissociate from the DNA and the process of transcription is terminated. That's it. Thank you.
Very good. Hey, I like the background. Very nice. A
Thank
good
you,
draw
ma'am.
kiya na, that's also a good attempt. Huh? Very good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Aishwarya ma'am.
Yes, Gayatri.
Ma'am, shall I share my screen?
I'll make you co-host. Just a sec. Yes, you're co-host now.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, is my screen visible?
Yes.
It's perfect.
Good morning, everyone. So after transcription in prokaryotes, we'll continue with transcription in eukaryotes. Similar to prokaryotes, transcription in eukaryotes is also of 3 steps. That is initiation, elongation, and termination. But unlike prokaryotes, there are few changes in the processes. First change is instead of just one RNA polymerase, there are 3 classes of RNA polymerases involved in transcription of eukaryotes. The following are the RNA polymerases for 1, 2, and 3. RNA polymerase 1 is present in nucleolus and it catalyzes the synthesis of 2S, 18S, and 5.8S rRNA. RNA polymerase 2 is present in nucleoplasm of nucleus and it catalyzes the synthesis of mRNA and snRNA. Third one, RNA polymerases is present in nucleoplasm of nucleus and catalyzes the synthesis of tRNA, 5S rRNA, and snRNA, which are not catalyzed by RNA polymerases 2. Since here we are going to talk about the transcription of mRNA, we are going to focus on RNA polymerases 2. Now we'll talk about regulatory elements. Regulatory elements are the sequences on the DNA which are involved in transcription regulation. First element is promoter element. A promoter element is basically of 2 types, basal and proximal. The main basal element is Tata box. As the name suggests, there are 7 nucleotides present, TA, TA, AAA. It is you can in the diagram you can see here it is an INR site, which is the initiator site of transcription. From that INR site in the upstream, Tata box is present at the position of -25. It is a AT rich nucleotide, which is primarily of pyrimidines. It helps to locate the site of initiation and helps the RNA polymerase to attach. Next is the proximal regulatory elements. Those are CAT box and GC box. CAT box, as the name suggests, is the main nuclear nitrogen bases involved are CAAT. It is approximately present -80 position upstream, and next is GC box, which is present -100 to 95 position upstream. Both of these proximal promoter elements help in regulation and stimulation of transcription. Next regulatory elements we will talk about are enhancers and silencers. Enhancers are the sequences of DNA which on which the activators are attached, which stimulate the transcriptions, and on the contrary, silencers are those DNA sequences on which the repressors attach and they decrease the rate of transcription. Next, we'll talk about the factors. These factors attach to the RNA polymerase and stimulate the transcription process. So first is basal transcription factors. Here there are 6 types of them: TF2, A, B, D, E, F, and H. As the name suggests, T and F is the transcription factor. 2 here stands for the polymerases it attaches to, that is RNA polymerase 2. And the letter after that is the order of discovery. So here A means it is discovered first. Next are the activators and repressors. These are the proteins which attach to the enhancers and silencers sequences on the DNA to facilitate transcription. Next, we'll talk about initiation. So first step, it is the first step of transcription. So you can see here is the first DNA strand. On this, there is Tata box, which is our promoter. On the promoter, first our factor first factor, that is TF2D, will come. TF2D is a multiple subunit protein which has TBP, which is Tata box binding protein, and the other is Tata box binding protein associated factor. So these 2 units and will come and join on Tata box. This forms the initial committed complex. Next step is TF2B to F2A will come and join this initial committed complex. Then there is addition of TF2F factor, which actually helps the RNA polymerase 2 to bind on the Tata box site. And in the last step, we can see that TF2E and TF2H will join the whole complex. Earlier, the complex form is called as minimal transcription initiation complex, and after joining of TF2E and TF2H, it is complete transcription initiation complex, or also called as pre-initiation complex, PIC. After the joining of 60 to 80 nucleotides of RNA, TF2E and TF2H are released. TF2E and H are primarily used or facilitates helicase enzyme, which opens up the DNA for transcription. Next, we'll see elongation. Elongation, the polymerase moves downstream, unwinding the DNA, and elongation of RNA takes place from 5' to 3' end. Next is termination. When the there is no such point of termination or ending of RNA ending of transcription, but after transcription there is pre-mRNA or precursor mRNA is formed, and after modification and processing of this mRNA, a mature mRNA is formed which can be translated. So this pre-RNA has 3 parts. First is at the 5' end, UTR, which stands for untranslated region, and there is another UTR present at 3' end, which is also again untranslated region. In between the 2 UTRs, there is the coding region, which is actually translated. This coding region mainly contains of exons and introns. Introns are the non-codable sequences, and the name has come from intervening sequences, therefore introns, and exons are expressed in translation, so they are called exons. Then at the time of termination, at 5' and a cap is added, and at 3' and a poly-A tail is added. Addition of poly-A tail signifies the ending of transcription, and also splicing takes place during termination, which is removal of introns and joining of exons. There is a difference between the mRNA formed in prokaryotes and eukaryotes. In prokaryotes, since there is no defined nucleus, the transcription and translation process goes on simultaneously, which is also called as coupled transcription and translation. But in case of eukaryotes, first mRNA is transcribed in nucleus, it comes out in the cytoplasm, and then it is translated. The second difference is the mRNA in prokaryotes is polycistronic, which is it codes from several genes, and in eukaryotes it's monocistronic, which is it codes from one single gene. This is my reference. I've referred genetics book from Peter J. Russell, and thank you. Ma'am.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you, ma'am.